Before I even started growing vegetables, I was interested in seed saving. It was one of those ideas and possibilities that really inspired me to start a garden. Within the first few seasons of having my own garden, I had started to grow a range of different varieties of vegetables, was saving some seeds, and had joined the Irish Seed Savers Association. I bought and read books on the subject, tried to learn about the requirements of different types of vegetables, and even dreamed of the possibilities of breeding my own varieties. I saw seed saving as an important part of my explorations into growing, but then I stopped, and it's been quite a few seasons since I've saved any seed, and it's interesting to look back at the reasons for this change. Like so many seed savers, I started with bean seeds, the diversity and beauty of which is so amazing and inspiring, and this was possible in the small back garden of our urban home. And as they are so easy to save, I started to collect different varieties and was quickly building up a stash of seeds that greatly exceeded my available space for growing them, but this didn't seem to matter to me. When we moved to a smaller village and I started to grow for the local community farm, I had access to more land, and I took advantage of a fence along the edge of the vegetable field to grow garden peas for seed saving. I sowed as many different varieties as I could get my hands on, thinking that doing a variety trial to find the best ones and saving seeds from all of them for future use was a good use of my time. But I struggled a bit to properly manage this long row of peas on a weedy site and didn't find the time to adequately evaluate the differences between all the different varieties. Although I felt some tasted better than others, and I noticed differences in the number of pods that were being produced, I also realized that this wasn't the best conditions for determining which varieties were most appropriate for our use. But I still saved the seeds, hoping to repeat the experiment the following season, and at least I had saved a larger supply of a wide range of varieties for future use. I wasn't able to continue to grow for the farm the following season, and without the space I needed for the experiment, I still have this collection of pea seeds that I have done nothing with. They sit here to this day, taking up space, and most of them are probably no longer viable. If things had worked out differently, I would have been well set, but in hindsight it would have been better to enjoy eating the freshly harvested peas instead. That same season, I started to grow in a polytunnel for the very first time, and I decided to try to let a few of the early crop of spinach and lettuce plants go to seed naturally so that I could bulk up the seed supply for the farm. It worked out very badly, with mold developing on the lettuce plants and the spinach had problems, and I didn't end up getting any seed. My inexperience with growing in polytunnels, especially with managing the heat and humidity, was a key problem. It ended up being a waste of valuable growing space, as we could have eaten the lettuce and spinach plants and then cleared the bed for another crop. And from this I realized that saving seed from some vegetables really did mean less food, and it probably wasn't the most effective use of this valuable space or of my time. That season I had also realized how much cheaper the large quantities of seed that were typically sold to market gardeners can be, compared to the small packets sold to home growers at least, and probably better quality, so the financial incentive for saving seed was reduced significantly. My attempts to save tomato seeds from a number of different varieties that same season also didn't work out. I had obviously messed up on the process of preparing and drying the seeds, as many of the seeds that I saved failed to germinate the following season, causing an unfortunate delay in getting this crop started. Over the years, I had learned how to isolate and hand pollinate squash, as well as courgettes and zucchini, which is a really interesting manual process. But it can be tricky to get most varieties of squash to ripen here in Ireland, and I found myself saving seeds from varieties that ended up being less suitable for this climate. At about the same time, I read in one of Steve Solomon's books about mistakes that seed savers operating at a home garden scale often make when saving seeds from wind or insect-pollinated vegetables. I realized that he was talking about people like me, and it felt like if I was going to do something, I needed to do it well. While it is fine to bulk up seeds for my own use for a season or two, if I wanted to preserve varieties from some vegetables for many seasons, then I really should develop the skills and focus the time and space to do it properly. The main part of the Red Gardens project that I've been working on has been a series of family-scale gardens in which I compare and contrast different methods of managing a vegetable garden. After the first few seasons, I realized that I needed to reduce the number of things that I was trying to do, that I was trying to keep track of, and that it wasn't really appropriate to set aside space in one of the gardens for seed saving because it would distort the data that I needed to compare it to the other gardens. I also found that it was best to grow just one variety across all the different gardens, rather than a different variety in each of the gardens, as it made it a lot easier to compare. I also felt it was better to stick with widely available varieties, as it could make the entire project more relatable and accessible for most people. In these ways, the nature of the project caused me to move away from growing heritage varieties and the idea of diversity, and move more towards the use of conventional and widely available varieties, and to focus on growing lots of food. As part of this, I started to grow a few F1 hybrid varieties for some crops, which kind of felt like a betrayal of the principles that I had started with, and in ways it was. I was giving up on that desire for that extra layer of interest, that compelling story that is often behind a lot of heritage varieties, and one of the things that makes seed saving seem more important. And instead, I focused on trying to be consistently successful at growing really good quality vegetables, which in ways these days is special enough. Perhaps the most significant realization that I had, which caused me to move away from the idea of seed saving for a while, was that the best quality seeds come from really healthy plants. If I was only growing plants that were of mediocre quality and health, then I'd only be producing mediocre quality seeds. Perhaps they'd be better quality than what I could buy elsewhere, but I wasn't so sure about that. I realized that there was possibly an order or stages of skills development here. First, I should learn how to grow a crop really well, and then I should find varieties that are useful and suitable for my context and climate, and then I should develop the skills needed for seed saving. Of course, I wanted to produce the highest quality seed that I could, but first I needed to be a better grower, or at least to be able to consistently grow really strong and healthy plants. And trying to do too much, including seed saving, was possibly getting in the way of that. In the end, I stopped seed saving for a mix of reasons. I was collecting seed varieties and building up a big supply of seeds, but not using them. I didn't want to use up valuable growing space. I needed to reduce the complexity of what I was doing. Seed saving didn't easily fit into the main focus of the project I was working on. I didn't want to mess up the variety I was trying to save, and I needed to develop the skills and to have the capacity to do it all properly. But this season I'm going to start seed saving again, partially because I have a lot more space and freedom to work within the larger black plot. I also feel that with some vegetables I'm getting much better at growing them, being more consistently successful most of the time. Carrots are a good example, as I've produced some really good crops of carrots from a variety that seems really suitable, productive, and tasty. I was really impressed with the vigor of the seed that I bought for this variety, growing really strong seedlings, which provides a good foundation to start from. Interestingly, another variety of carrot seed from the same supplier ended up producing a lot of off-type carrots, a sign of cross-pollination which should definitely not happen. So if the experts are not going to supply me with great quality seed, or if I can't rely on them, then it gives me more of a reason to focus on doing it myself. And with so much happening in the world around us, my instincts to build local and personal resilience have overtaken the desire for simple and convenient options. So, this coming season I'm going to be saving seed from one variety of carrots. I've selected good quality roots that were grown last season, and have replanted them in a spare area of ground in a sheltered location beside my polytunnel. By replanting quite a few roots, I expect to maintain a strong genetic diversity within the variety, and I'm really interested to see how much seed all these widely spaced plants will produce. I'm also planning to do some variety trials of beetroot, tomatoes, onions, climbing beans, courgettes or zucchini, and squash. The aim is to figure out which ones I like, which ones are really productive, and what ones do well in the context and climate, rather than just relying on the opinions and experience of others, or on the descriptions of the variety. I suspect I won't have a lot of time for any additional seed saving this season, and in the future I plan to only save from varieties that work really well. I need to work on my skills and capacities to be able to confidently share seeds with others, and perhaps to become a seed guardian for certain rare varieties, and possibly in the future to delve into the area of breeding my own varieties. Now that would be really interesting and time-consuming work. Spring is almost here and the gardens are starting to get really busy, and I've got so many videos that I'm planning to make in the near future. If you think this video deserves a like or a share or a comment, I'd be delighted if you would. And if you think this project I'm working on and this YouTube channel in general merits even more support, please check out my Patreon page linked here or in the description below, along with other ways to financially support this project. I'd like to thank all those people who have been supporting my work for so long, and thank you so much for watching.